Hey guys, this is Camfrey15 back at it with another video for you guys, and I'm back at it with another My Hero Academia manga chapter review for you guys, and I am here for manga chapter 321. Um, Man, you would think that this chapter, that you would not think for My Hero Academia as a whole you get back-to-back emotional content from MHA. Yesterday was obviously the Endeavor family drama stuff with him saving Natsu from ending, and then you have that whole emotional scene. And then by the time you get to the end of this manga chapter, it makes you want to bawl your eyes out all over again. But yeah, let's get to it. So last time, which was 2 week break. Now, I think the reason why we had a break was because of the Olympics. Now, I know for the anime, they're actually having a break because of the Olympics. But we all know that it started Deku somewhat, even though it's not versus Class 1A, it's just Class 1A trying to capture Deku. And we saw how that just didn't really work out. And we now see what happened at the end of that chapter of 320 when he was trapped obviously in Todoroki's eyes. Now we pick up this chapter where Endeavor drives up in his car. He comes out, and obviously the other Class 1A students who got a hold of obviously Dictator, they hand him over to Endeavor, and they say, and Endeavor says that's Dictator. There's no guarantee that he's operating alone. You better make sure to protect the civilians who ran off are safe. And he tells Hagakure, Ayama, and Kirishima to join Hawks to be able to keep the area secure and stuff like that. Now, Hawks kind of tells Endeavor, saying, like, Endeavor, shouldn't we get Genus to just stab him and get this over with? And essentially that's when Kirishima essentially, what the heck? Okay. Kirishima, he starts kind of pretty emotional, and he's like, look, I know there's not much I can do because because Deku's just flying all over the place and stuff like that. But I just want to say a lot more to this guy because he's my friend and everything and stuff like that. So they all go to try to help with capturing Deku and stuff like that. Now, this is whenever it tells, obviously, Hawks, listen, let the kids handle this. Just don't interfere with this. So we cut back to really what Todoroki's picking up on, telling Deku. Now, he's telling Deku, like, did you ever think that maybe All For One wants you in this state? He might seize this chance to attack UA, which is actually a pretty interesting standpoint by Todoroki. The standpoint is like, maybe this is what All For One wants, maybe he wants to get to the point where UA is literally unprotected, because we know that, well, Class 1A, they've kind of been doing, I guess you can say, security watch over the school and stuff like that. And Todoroki's like, maybe he wants us out here so then he can potentially attack UA and stuff like that. And he goes on to say, running around to keep off the radar has left you looking like, well, that. Essentially saying, like, yeah, this state you're in where you're exhausted, you're tired, you look deranged, essentially. This is because of it's because of the All For One stuff and everything. He's like, look, consider coming back to UA as a backup plan to get yourself in the right mind space, to cool yourself and rest and relax yourself. And Todoroki continues to say, UA matters to you, right? You want to protect it. Sticking with us is a valid reason. And that's when Todoroki's like, let us help you. Let us join your fight. Let us be by your side, because this is the whole thing Class 1A, wants to do. They know Deku has this burden and he has so much on his plate to take care of. And they know, listen, he can't do this all by himself. So let's fight by you. We've been by you from the start. We've been by your side from the start. Let us continue to be right behind you and help you with all these stuff. And Deku is in this mindscape. He's just, again, we know he's mentally warped and he's deranged, mentally deranged right now. And he just freaking just remembers just that one chapter. I forgot what chapter it was, but it was the chapter at the end of the chapter when All for One tells Deku that it's your turn and stuff like that, which we know kind of mind effed him from that point on. And Deku's like, you can't. And my God, when I see the panel in this literally makes Deku look legit terrifying. Deku looks legit terrifying, legit scary. Looks like he lost his mind. Looks like he's literally insane in this panel. And he's like, no, you can't. This is a fight between One for All and All for One, and you guys can't keep up. So he breaks out of the ice. He jumps. Now, Ida's like, okay, Uraraka, now. Now Sue, she sticks out her tongue, and Deku dodges it, but it grabs on to Mineta, and that's when we see Mineta use his purple ball bead, and he calls this Mineta beads tenfold and stuff like that. And this is when we get Mineta's whole speech of how much Deku means to him. And Mineta says, I never thought it was your power that made you awesome. I fell for you, I think, a non-homo way, I think as a friend. Or I guess you can say he respected him in a way. Or, I started calling you a friend. I really don't like how they said that in the official translation. I fell for you. Like, that sounds kind of gay, but okay, it kind of hammers the point, but I'm thinking here, it's essentially Mineta saying, I started to become your friend. I think that's what the unofficial translation said compared to the unofficial. It sounds really weird that they said that. I would have probably went back and changed that. But Mineta says, I first became your friend when you were scared and sweating buckets and quaking in your boots. Back when we found a path together the way you were back then. And he's referring back to the point in season 1, really the very first, the USJ arc, way back at the beginning of the series, when him, Sue, and Deku were all trapped on that boat with the villains surrounding them and essentially had no way out of there, otherwise they were all gonna die. And we knew that Deku was just very scared, but at the same time thinking, and Mineta's like, I found a newfound respect because you found a way to get out of there, even though you were afraid for your life and everything. And obviously Deku remembers this, and he just fires a black whip at Mineta to push him away. And he's like, I'm sorry, Mineta. That old me is gone. And I'm like, no, it's still there. It's in the deepest and darkest parts of your soul. And you just hear that line and it's like, bruh, don't say that, man. Listen, and that's the thing. Deku's trying to deny the fact to his friends that, that old Deku, that one that had everything in the past experiences with them over the past year and months they've been, together. He's trying to say, like, that Deku is gone. You can't bring that me back. But we all know that Deku is still in there, and we know in the deepest, darkest parts of his core, that old Deku we saw from the very start of the series is still there. Obviously, he's gonna have to be more serious and have much more of a more serious demeanor approach to this whole situation. But I think we can all say that Deku we know from the first, I would say 5 seasons, or the Deku before the war arc happened, before the end of the war arc happened, is still the same Deku we all know who it is and stuff like that. He's just not believing within himself that it's there. It's there clearly in the deepest dark. He's just kind of put that away. So yeah. Anyways, he goes, and then he's thinking of using obviously pseudo 100% with Fajin, and he's like, Black Whip stretching is plus all for 145% plus Fajin. And it looks like he's going to just get out of there. Now, Ochako was like, "You're not gonna go anywhere, Deku." And obviously, she kind of gets a flashback, and she's like, "I'm sure Bakugo will consider it disgraceful, get rescued." Um, and that's when she's like, "Things are different now." Um, our Deku's telling her, he's like, "Look, things are different now, including me," and he literally dashes right past her. And I'm like, not even Ochako can talk this guy down. I'm like, that's his love interest. That's the person he cares about. Probably he cares about all his other all his other friends and everything, but that's probably the one person like he legit cares about, because you can say he has feelings for her. At the same time, she has feelings for him. And I'm like, wow, he just. And again, this is the whole thing where a lot of people kind of pointed this out in terms of their, I guess you can say, their romantic relationship, with the fact that Deku for some reason can't look up to face her. Like when she first came, when they all came back and confronted him, he couldn't even look her in the eye. And same here, he kind of kept his eyes closed and his head down, and he just didn't look at her. Like, I feel like, I'm guessing maybe he'll feel like she'd be ashamed of him, but I don't think she would. Clearly nobody's ashamed of him. They're just like, dude, we want to help you because you're our friend and everything. So yeah, now this is when Ochako screams out, and she's like, "Okay guys, now it's time." So we see a huge ice ramp like it was back in season 3, in the before the while All For One and All Might were fighting, and we have Mina creating an acid man over something, where clearly it's going to affect obviously the wind pressure. So what happens is, a few people push Todoroki and Bakugo off. So that's when, and going up the ramp, Todoroki uses Flash Freeze Heat Wave, and I believe this is Ochako's monologuing, and she says, "There's so much we want to tell you, but since words alone can't reach you, or won't reach you." And in this meantime, we have Ochako touching, obviously, the Acid Man, or whatever's in the Acid Man. And Todoroki, he's like, "So, you say we can't keep up, huh?" And going back to the Ochako inner monologue, Ochako's saying, "The thing is, Deku, we don't want to be protected by you." And that's when we, or she goes on to say, "Or reject who you are and what you're doing. We just want to be with you," which has been the whole thing they've been trying to get across to our boy Deku. Now, in the meantime, with this monologue, Bakugo unleashes another new move he got, and it's called Blasting Speed Turbo Cluster, which is just a cluster of explosions to get them higher and get them faster to try to catch up with Deku and stuff like that. Now this is when we kind of get this is when we get to the Deku, the Bakugo inner monologue, which is what he's thinking in his head. He goes on to say, "Deku, I got a lot I want to say. No, I got a ton of what I want to say, but for now, I'm passing the mic to the guy built for speed. Go get him, Prez." And we see in the Acid Man, it was actually Ida right then and there. So Ida turns up a reciprocal boost as he's getting blasted off with the help of Bakugo. And essentially, this is when we essentially have Bakugo in the inner monologue actually saying this. And I think this is this is definitely now a confirmation where Bakugo is now acknowledging Deku and how strong he is. Essentially, I guess you can say having his Vegeta moment, when back in the Buu Saga, Vegeta said, "Kakarot, you're better than me." And it's something similar to that in the dialogue Bakugo says, because he says, quote, "You always manage to outpace me," which is a very, very crazy like speech, or very crazy, just dialogue from Bakugo, because in the past, early Bakugo would have never said, "Oh, Deku's ever gonna outpace me and beat me," but he finally said it here. And the one thing, and the one thing here is, it's funny too. See, even season 5 kind of brought it up. when Bakugo was telling Endeavor, and one of Bakugo's, things he was telling Endeavor was to tell Endeavor, teach me things that I can't do. Essentially realizing what are things that I can do and what are some things that are literally impossible for me to do. And to see Bakugo actually be like the guy to be like, you know what? As much as I want to say this to you, I'm gonna have to wait till we finally bring you in and capture, and then I can say whatever I want to say to you. But I can't catch up to you because you're too fast. But there's somebody else that's faster than me in this class that we can help, and that we can use to help with our plan and everything. And again, like I said, it really goes to show you that Bakugo, his character really has changed over time. Like, when I first saw Bakugo, literally, I thought this dude was going to be a villain. He was going to be Deku's main antagonist by the end of the series. The way it looked like the series, the way it started off, was going to go. He's going to turn to the dark side. He's going to be Deku's, rival that he's going to save. Like, maybe somewhat of like a Sasuke type character. I haven't read Naruto at all, but something like similar to like that. And no, he didn't. He didn't turn to that. He stuck by his guns. He stayed a hero. And his development in this series has been so good. Like, he's acknowledging, Ida. He literally called him Prez. Like, I don't know. He's never calling him Ida. I think when he starts acknowledging, obviously, his other classmates by their actual names, it'll go to show you how much his character has grown. But it goes to show you, too, that he does care about Deku at the end of the day, even though Deku does get on his last damn nerves. At the end of the day, he sees Deku as a friend. Even though he's a rival to him, even though he sees himself as a rival, he sees himself at the end of the day as a friend. And I really do like the appreciation, the growth of Bakugo's character. His personality as a whole has taken, early stage Bakugo would have never ever did any of this for Deku. You'd be like, man, let him run away. I don't care about that damn nerd weakling. Who cares? I'm not gonna help him. But this is Bakugo who has grown over time, being able to deal with Deku and along with the other classmates, and knowing how much of this responsibility he has, he wants to do his part to help. And he knows, I may not be stronger than him ever again, but I'm gonna do my damnedest to help him. And stuff like that, like he helped me in the past. And that's when he ends off his dialogue saying, that's precisely why I'm always ready. And this is when we cut over quickly to the second user of One for All. And he's like, if there's anything that could bolster Izuku Midoriya now, it would be. And that's essentially where you have this great panel where you have Ida finally catching up to Deku, and he grabs Deku's hand. And this whole dialogue actually reads out, that's precisely why I'm always ready to challenge you. And that's when obviously Ida says to those who share his resolve, those who can match his pace. And that's what the second user is saying. Essentially mentioning the fact that Deku's classmates are the ones that can be able to get him back to normal, share the same resolve he has, and are the same people that can match up to him. So, we all thought Class 1A was literally going to get just utterly destroyed by Deku, but no, here it clearly shows that they can keep up with him because they all together work together to do this, to keep up with him. And I think this is the moment where Deku can realize these guys can keep up with me. Now, maybe not in terms of my true power of One for All, but they can keep up with me to a point to be able to bring me back to the light and bring me back to save and stuff like that. The second user of One for All's dialogue says, and keep running alongside him, essentially saying these people can continue to run alongside him and be by his side until he has to have that fated brawl, obviously. And you get this nice panel where it's just Ida's hand grabbing Deku's hand, and that's when you start to get the chapter title revealed of chapter 321, and it's titled, at the end of the chapter, it's titled From Class A to One for All. And the chapter ends off with Deku saying, "Why? You know, you can't just let go." And Ida's saying, "I will not." And he goes on to say, "Ingenium the hero will dash across the land to take a lost child by the hand. Because giving help that's not asked for, because giving help that's not asked for, is what makes a true hero." Hold on. Hold on, let me read that whole statement again. Essentially, he ends the chapter off by saying, "Because giving help that's not asked for is what makes a true hero." Now, the unofficial translation, the unofficial translation, in other words, what Ida's kind of saying here is, if you remember back to season 2, back in the Stan arc, when Deku saved Ida, and Deku made the whole statement of saying meddling in other affairs is what makes being a true hero. Even though it's not exactly what word for word what Ida said in this, in the official translation, in the unofficial translation, that's what Ida said there. But essentially, it's the same thing there. Essentially, it's Ida saying, like, meddling other people's affairs is what is the essence of being a true hero. And I really like how Ida said that to Deku, because Deku said that to him all those months ago in the storyline, about a year and all those months ago in the storyline when Deku saved Ida. And you know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think I said it in the last few chapters, but Ida knows what Deku's going through. He really does, because it's somewhat like here, it's somewhat similar in the two storylines of Deku trying to take this burden all by himself to defeat a villain, just like how Ida did back in season 2 with Stain. He tried to take up this burden to avenge somebody he cares about, to make sure his family is safe. And Deku here, he's taking the burden alongside himself to keep his friends and his family safe, at the same time getting revenge on Shigaraki and All For One for what they did, so they don't have to hurt his friends again and his family, and the people he cares about. And Ida can literally like just be like, "I know what you're going through, Midoriya. And guess what? You helped me, and now I'm here to help you." And it was just a great panel. You not only have Ida crying, you have Deku looking up at him, just about to literally break out in tears. And his last panel looks like he's like literally just bawling his eyes out crying. I think this could be, I think now is the point where literally you can just have it to where now Deku finally realizes he can stop this rebellion he's having. I think this is the part where now Deku is going into the next chapter. I think they're going to touch down. That's going to be the part where we're probably going to see Deku just break out into tears, obviously crying. And this is when that's when he's just gonna be like, "Okay, I'll stop. I'm done. I can't handle this." And that's when obviously he's gonna be breakout crying, and then obviously we'll see the resolution of that. And maybe the other pro heroes will get involved and say, "Hey dude, hey kid, listen. We know you're important. We know you have this big burden on you, but we're gonna be behind you." Again, we don't know what happens too with All Might too. We don't know if All Might was in the limousine as well. So maybe All Might's there, and maybe he hugs Deku, telling him, "Kid, don't ever do that again," and stuff like that. Listen, and maybe and I'm guessing the next chapter is going to be the chapter where everyone kind of rips it into Deku, just saying, "Listen, dude, we respect the power you have, and we know the burden you're carrying, and you know this. But listen, we're all in this together. We're going to help you get through this, because you can't fight all these people alone." I think I said, and again, I feel like this is it. I think this is, after what Ida says, I think this is where Deku finally realizes what he's done. And I think now, knowing what he's done, I think Deku's going to go back to UA, and that's when we're going to go on from there. I think this is going to be the moment where Deku finally realizes, I need to stop this. And yeah, it was a great chapter, very emotional chapter. the end of this chapter can definitely bring you to tears, just like last week. Yesterday's episode was, and it definitely hits hard. It definitely does hit hard, and just even again, the thing that just makes me get emotional is just seeing the faces of Ida and Deku. These two lifelong friends. When Ida needed somebody's help, Deku was there. And of course, in this situation, of course, the other class members of 1A were there to save Deku, but Ida was essentially, you can say right now, the main catalyst to getting Deku to finally wake up to realize, look, what you're doing is wrong. It's time to stop. Listen, we care about you. We want to help. And I like that Ida was the guy that was stuck out his hand, being that person to help his hand. Just like how Deku was back in the Stain arc when he saved him. So it was a very beautiful chapter, one of the best chapters of My Hero Academia, I think, in the entire series as a whole. And this is for someone who just started reading them, who got into the manga essentially about a year ago, in January, and I just binge read the manga from the point forward, and this was just great. So the next chapter is not going to hit till August 9th, which is, I believe, next week. Yes, next week on a Monday, August 9th. I think probably because the Olympics are ending, I believe, the 8th. So the manga chapter is going to come out. The next manga chapter 322, is going to be coming out a day later before it officially always releases. Yeah, but other than that, that's kind of it. So if you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on this week's chapter of My Hero Academia, as well as hit that subscribe button if you want to get more My Hero Academia content, whether it's the manga or it's the anime. At the end of the video, I'll actually link the anime episode review, episode 18 of season 5, where me and my co-host talk about, obviously, that emotional episode, as well as I give a very, I would say, passionate rant about people essentially ripping on season 5 of the My Hero Academia anime, and in my opinion, explaining in a rant why it's not really justified that season 5 is getting all this bad rap, this hate, because, well, people can't handle it, and people can't just wait for My Villain Academia to come in the anime. But other than that, that's kind of it. So yeah, and if you do hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell icon to make sure you're up to date with whatever I upload to the channel. Other than that, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day or night when checking out this video. Until then, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.